I'm here in Ireland to talk about strict liability for trespassing livestock. I'm going to do an interview, ask it if it's trespassing. Strict liability is a claim that you can sue someone on. Now, negligence is a claim you can sue someone on, and it works in all circumstances. But with negligence, you have to prove someone wasn't being careful. With strict liability, you don't have to prove the defendant wasn't being careful. You can use it even when the defendant was being super careful, but it only works in certain circumstances. First, let's break down a prima facie case for strict liability. I like to view it in 4 elements. We've got something that creates a strict liability duty. You could say a duty for absolute safety, and then actual causation and proximate causation for an injury. Unlike negligence, we don't have to worry about breach. That's what makes strict liability strict. There's 5 categories for incurring the strict liability duty, the duty for absolute safety. 3 of them have to do with animals. So the non-animal categories are defective product and ultra-hazardous activities, sometimes called abnormally dangerous activities. Then we've got the 3 animal categories, which are wild animals, domestic animals with known vicious propensities, and trespassing livestock. Oh, baby horse, look at the baby horse. Look at the baby horse. When you think of strict liability and trespassing livestock, your mind might immediately go to some disaster scenario where some livestock escapes and goes on a rampage, biting or trampling people. That would create strict liability, but where the doctrine really comes from is agriculture, where the damage is to crops. You can see that the danger from these guys is that they want to eat stuff. Livestock that gets out and tramples crops, eats crops, that's the archetypal case for strict liability. Look at this bare field, see? They've eaten what they can. Hello, horsey. What is livestock? It includes animals that are raised as part of a farming or ranching operation. The details of exactly how to define livestock we don't really have a definition that works across jurisdictions, but we can say that dogs and cats definitely are not livestock, and we can say that horses definitely are livestock, cows, sheep, goats, pigs definitely would count as livestock.
Let's play Is It Livestock? Way to go! Brilliant! You're on a streak! Marvelous! That's okay. You'll do better next time. You rock!
There's 2 varieties of strict liability for trespassing livestock: fence in and fence out. This is an example of fence in. You horses are fenced in, right? You want to come over and talk about it? Oh, I'm communicating with them. Fence in is the default. If nothing else is going on, it's fence in. That means that the keeper of livestock has a duty to fence in their livestock, and if the livestock gets out, then they're strictly liable. Here, this looks like a fence-in jurisdiction. This is a park in Dublin. If you're gonna have livestock here, you'd be expected to keep them fenced in. Fence in means the duty to build a fence is on the livestock owner. Everyone else gets to live peacefully and free of their neighbor's livestock. Fence in. the default.
Fence out is the exception. It applies in some place that has been designated as a fence out jurisdiction. Could be done at the state level, county level, or even a portion of a county. In a fence out jurisdiction, livestock can roam free. If you're farming and you've got crops, then you have a duty to have a fence. And if the livestock gets past the fence, notwithstanding that you have the fence there, then the owner of the livestock is strictly liable.
Out here is what's got to be a fence out jurisdiction, or else it's an epic trespass. Everybody's sheep are roaming free, wandering around, intermingling. You can see they've got markings on them to say who they belong to. This is open range. Fence out means the duty to build a fence is on the person who wants to live in open range territory but wants the livestock to stay off their property. So if you're going to go against the grain, be an oddball, and try to use your land out here for raising crops, then you'll have a duty to fence out. That's why it's the exception.
Fence in again is the default. I think very roughly of fence in being farming country and fence out being ranch country. Flies are going to be a hazard in and around horses. Technically, a fly would be a wild animal, by the way, if you were keeping flies, keeping or possessing flies. Don't do that. That'd be super weird. If you are doing that, probably don't mention that to possible employers.
I'm sorry, I don't have any carrots. Would you like a mnemonic? Fence in, that stands for it's normal. Out, fence out, that stands for outlier, for open range.
Hypo time.
Little Siobhan lost her sheep, but Sean, her neighbor, he knows where they're at. They ate down his lawn and his garden is gone, and it's a fence-in jurisdiction, so there's that. Does Sean have a strict liability claim against Siobhan?
The answer is yes.
Yes, Sean has a good claim. Sheep count as livestock. Siobhan was keeping them. Therefore, she's strictly liable if they escape and cause harm. And eating plants on someone else's property is the kind of harm this tort doctrine was made for. Because it is a fence-in jurisdiction, she can't blame Sean for not having a fence to keep livestock out. Hypo time again. Hypo time again. Goats with some skills got out in the hills. It turns out they're Liam Neeson's. The law here's unchanged. It's not open range. And the goats bit Bono, the Edge, and the Chieftains. Do the Irish recording artists have a strict liability claim against Neeson?
The answer is yes.
Yes. Bono, the Edge, and the Chieftains have good claims. Goats count as livestock. Liam Neeson was keeping them. Therefore, he's strictly liable if they escape and cause harm. Personal injuries aren't the classic scenario for strict liability for trespassing livestock, but most jurisdictions allow such claims. And because the common law here is unchanged, that means this is a fence-in jurisdiction. So Neeson can't blame his musician neighbors for failing to fence out the goats. Subscribe so you can learn to do better next time.
Hello, horses.
Well, I have no carrots for you. You're used to being fed, aren't you?
Ooh.